All right, so I see this a lot with brand new lifters, and it's a very common early learning curve and adjustment that takes place with Olympic lifting. So the more and more you do, you realize that the wrists are going to be taking a little bit of abuse, and it's nothing to be overly concerned about. It's just something to be aware of and know how to manage that. So the wrist gets stretched out a lot, especially if you have real tight, stiff wrists, if you type a lot, or if you work with your hands a lot. But the wrists need to be flexible enough in order to turn over the bar into the proper receiving position in the snatch, and then the front rack position in the clean, and then the overhead position in the jerk. So it's just going to get stretched out a little bit at first, and that's a learning curve that pretty much every lifter I've ever talked to, worked with, it basically goes through. So you just want to be smart and not force the wrist under excessive loads too soon. You got to build yourself up smoothly and properly with the weights and how much you're utilizing. You don't want to shy away from it in terms of getting soft there, but you want to keep a nice firm grip and let your wrist roll appropriately. So you need the proper amount of flexibility and mobility in the wrist, but you also need stability there. So it's not all about flexibility, but you need to maintain a strong, stable position as well. So it's a very common learning curve, and one thing you can do is work on proper stretches where you get your hands into extension there, and you can put your hands on a wall and kind of work your hands down the wall and get more of the palm of your hand flat to the wall. You can place your hands open like that to the floor and kind of stretch your wrists out that way, sort of in a kneeling position with your hands on the floor. But proper stretching with them with your training will definitely help them adapt. Just training will help them adapt, and it's something that can take several weeks to adapt to, and it's very common. I do recommend taping the wrists though, and I've been taping my wrists every day for over a decade, and I'll never do a heavy Olympic lifting session without it. I mean, there's not a lot of support structure in there, and it's basically connective tissue and a lot of small bones in there, and no amount of muscling a weight, once you start doing a lot of heavy loads in Olympic lifts, you know, there's only so much give that you're going to have there, and you can't over muscle that, and it's basically more about connective tissue and joint structure there. So I do recommend taping or using wrist wraps in order to preserve that structure and keep tension there. That's one thing I do recommend for safety there. So tape, I usually tape a little bit high under the hand there to about 2 to 3 inches down, and it's pretty excessive. It's almost like a cast looking thing, but it definitely keeps me secure and safe, and I've never had any major wrist injuries as a result, and I've been able to handle the loads on a daily basis 6 days a week for a long time. So try that out and play with the amount of tension with that tape there. Maybe start at medium to the medium heavy sort of tension there, and then add tape as you go to see how tight you really want it to keep proper comfort in the wrist, where you can still grip the bar well, but then still turn over well. So play with that and adjust and see how comfortable you are. Some people don't like to use much. Some people just use the wrist straps and they can adjust them each and every set. I just don't like having to fumble around with those each and every set myself. So it's a very common thing with the Olympic lifts. The wrists will come around if you give them the proper respect and you're consistent with your training. You don't make bad decisions with weights and are forcing them into bad positions. You can definitely easily injure your wrists if you're a meathead and you take weights you shouldn't, and if your wrists are bothering you, you should listen to that and slowly build them up and do some proper extra exercises with your stretching and just even barbell work going into the proper receive positions. Your position stretches like we do in the ABCs, say the front rack stretch, the overhead lockout, things of that nature, will definitely prepare your wrists to handle the wear and tear to occur, and really shouldn't be much wear and tear in the end, and really strengthen your wrists up and make them nice and healthy.